Hello everyone. In this video we are going to use Excel to help us answer some questions about descriptive statistics and also I think a little bit on normality. So what we are going to do is first grab our data and import it into Excel. So here's our data. We are going to copy it over. Give me just a second. Here we go, copy. And we are going to paste it into Excel. Remember, do the paste special and text. Okay, let me increase our text size just a little bit, and let's resize our columns. Okay, so here we have, these are like winds in the city of Casper, the wind speed in miles per hour, and the weather type that it was, if it was like rain or snow, if it was clear, etc. So the first thing that I want us to do before we kind of move on and do anything is we are going to just do basic statistics on the entire data set, regardless of the weather type. So in order to get started, let's select our data. So start on the Casper winds, Control Shift down, and we'll have selected all of our data. And then we're going to open up our real stats package. And it is, let me pull that up. Remember, we push Control M to do that. Let's grab our descriptive statistics and normality. Click OK. Our next pop-up box should appear. And for this one, I'm not going to use the box plot, and I'm not going to do the Shapiro-Wilks. I do have the column headings included. I've grabbed the range, and I'm going to select my output range, and I'm just going to put that in. Oh, let's put it in column G just to keep it out of the way, and we'll click OK. Okay, so here we have our descriptive statistics. We have our mean, our standard deviation, median, and a whole bunch of different other things. So let's see if we calculated these correctly. So the mean that was calculated is this 16.42. And we get this 16.4238, and it's the same as we got over there. Now, suppose we didn't have a big enough, or we didn't have sufficient decimal places showing. If we open this up, if we just make it wider, we can get some more decimal places. The other thing that we can do is if you need to manually increase the number of decimal places being shown, we can highlight the cells that we're interested in. And then where it says general, we can click on number. And then if we click on these two, we can either increase the number of decimal places or we can decrease the number of decimal places being shown. So it's super handy that you can kind of increase and decrease. And typically in MyOpenMath, it's looking for answers rounded to usually 3 or 4 decimal places. If it doesn't say, assume that we are going to be rounding to 4 decimal places. And the nice thing that you can do is you don't have to even type it into MyOpenMath. We can just copy this cell and then we can paste it into MyOpenMath. All right, so we have that. We have the median of 16.20055, and that's what this gets. Standard deviation, we can grab its 4.62. We get this 4.62. The sample variance is 21.35. We got that. If we're looking for the maximum, 26.802. Minimum, 917. And our range, we get 17.885. So like, check this out, like all of these answers are coming exactly from here. All right, but now we're asked another question. What are the proportion of rain and snow days out of here? So in order to do that, let's do a pivot table, because a pivot table will be able to answer this for us really quickly. So let's go ahead and click on our weather type and do our Control Shift down. And as we do that, let's bring it back up. Let's do a quick pivot table. So go to Insert and click on Pivot Table. Let's tell it where we want it to go. So let's do the existing worksheet. We're going to do it right below. We'll click OK. It'll give us some options. We can click on weather type, and then we can drag weather type down to values. And we are left with our rain and snow days and the number of clear. And then what we can do is we can find the proportion of rain and snow days by just taking the number of rain and snow days divided by the grand total. And if we'd enter, we get this 0.5625 are the proportion of rain and snow days. Okay, so we were able to go through and just get general summary statistics for both our numerical data and for our categorical data. Okay, next we have some stretch questions. So these ones are questions that are actually going to ask us to do some more work about like comparing our groups to each other. So it says of the recorded days where the rain and snow or the clear found to have a higher mean wind speed. Okay, in order to do this, we actually need to do some data wrangling. And we showed a little bit of this in a previous video, but there are actually some additional tools that we can use to help us out. So one thing that we need to do in order to do this data wrangling is we're going to select all of column B. So I'm going to click right there, and then I'm going to hold the shift key down as I'm doing this next operation. So I'm going to hold the shift key, and then I'm going to click on the side of the green box around our selection. So if I click on it, my big fat white kind of plus sign becomes a plus sign, a black one with the little arrows on it. If we click and we drag it over to the side, it becomes green. You can't see it too well, but it does become green on that left side. And I'm going to let go. And what it does is it shifts the data that used to be in column B over to the side of column A. Let me show that again. And you know, while I'm at it, I'm going to clear out these just so that they're out of the way. Let's delete them. Okay. So if I wanted to switch them back, I could click on column A, push and hold shift, and then I'm going to click the side of A. I'm going to drag it over to B. You see how that becomes this green line, vertical line. I'm going to let go, and it shifts what column A was now to column B. And then I'm just going to take it back to the other side, and there we go. Okay, so I want my groups to be on the left side, and I want my actual values to be on the right side. Now remember, if we want to have our descriptive statistics compare the groups to one another, we actually have to have each group have its own column, and then it can do the comparison to each other. Okay, so let's have Excel actually do this for us. So I'm going to click up in, you know what, let's do column D. And we're going to type out equals std and ANOVA 1. And put in a parenthesis. And then we are going to select our entire data. So start, except not including the labels. So I'm going to go down one right below my labels, and then do Control Shift down to select all of the data. Put a parenthesis in, so you can see the equation up here, std ANOVA, and then we should be able to hit enter. And now what it has done is it has taken the clear days, and everything clear, we have its data underneath it, and everything rain and snow, we have underneath that. Okay, so with this, let's go ahead and select it now. I'm going to highlight it all. Now that I have it highlighted, what I'm going to do is I'm going to run some descriptive statistics. So let's push Control M again. Let's pop up our real stat package. Let's go to building our descriptive statistics at normality. I'm going to click OK. And it's going to say, okay, what is your data selection and where do you want it? So I'm going to remove the Shapiro-Wilkes and remove the box plot. And I'm going to tell it to put everything in this like column K. Okay, and then I'm going to select OK. And here what we have is we have our descriptive statistics broken down between our two groups, our group of clear weather and our group of rain and snow. And this is going to allow us to go ahead and answer these questions. So of the recorded days where the rain and snow or the clear found to have a higher mean wind speed. So we want to look at the mean, and the higher was during the rain and the snow. So we can click on this and we see rain and snow. Okay, next question. Of the recorded days where the rain, snow, or clear found to have a higher standard deviation. Okay, so if we, let's double click on K real quick so we can actually see what's going on. If we look at the standard deviation, the higher standard deviation was also with the rain and the snow. Okay, now we have kind of this this stretch question. Now consider if the next day added to the list which had a wind speed of 100. So this would be like, tornado or hurricane weather. And it says which would be more affected? Would the median or the mean be more affected? And in this one, the mean is going to be more affected. Remember that the mean is more affected by outliers than the median. Now, there are some like border or fringe cases where we might be able to force the median to be more affected, but the mean is typically more affected by an outlier. Okay, so we're going to defend this answer. And the answer is that since the mean is an average of all the numbers, big outliers greatly influences it. Okay, so next we've got, let's assume that the daily average wind speed follows a normal distribution, and the sample mean and standard deviation are really the population values. So we're going to assume that these samples that we found are really like our mu and our sigma. Considering the 100 miles per hour, how many standard deviations above the mean is that outlier? Okay, so let's find out how many standard deviations above is it. So the equation that we're going to use is this: z equals x minus mu, mu, divided by sigma is how we find our z-score. So in here, I'm just going to click z equals, let's delete out that. Z equals, and just for kicks, we're going to do a right justify. Okay, and then I'm going to say equals, our x would be that observation of 100 minus our mu, or our mean, and we're going to do the overall mean. So let's grab our mean from over here, mean, and we're going to divide by the standard error, or we're going to divide by this standard deviation. And we'll go ahead and hit enter, and we hit that it's 18-ish standard deviations above the mean. That is our z-score. Now, still considering that 100 miles per hour wind speed, what is its z-score? And it's the same thing. Remember, the z-score is defined as the number of standard deviations above or below the mean that our observation is. So that's how we do this. We learned a bunch of things in this video. We learned kind of first kind of a review of doing just descriptive statistics on the entire data set. Then we learned how to wrangle some of the data by reformatting it from this kind of standard format to the sampling format, or these sample column formats. And then when we did it like that, we were able to use our descriptive statistics to compare the groups to one another. Anyways, best of luck on doing this in your own assignments.